Alrighty guys, good morning. It is Tuesday, January 13th. It is around 7 a.m. in the morning. Anyways, plan for today. Gonna be heading to school soon. It's around 7:05 a.m. So gonna go make some breakfast, get ready for school. School starts around 8 a.m. So I'll be there for that. But I do have a break at school from 10:30 to 11:40. So an hour and 10 minutes where I usually do some work. And so I can film a little bit more there, show what I'm doing. And then after that, yeah, gonna finish up school and around 3 o'clock. I might go to the gym today or I might just go home, get some work done. And then this evening, I have an event that I'm gonna be going to that should be pretty cool. I'm gonna share some more info about that later in the video. So yeah, that's sort of the plan for today. I'm gonna go make some breakfast and I will probably update you guys when I get to school. So some time has passed since I last filmed earlier this morning. It is now around 1:20 in the afternoon. So yeah, got to school. My first class was actually canceled, so I just worked on some miscellaneous tasks, some homework that we were assigned for that class. Then I had a few more other classes. I had a little bit of a break. During then, I have one of my periods I have free as well during school. So I had quite a bit of free time during the day to, just work on various tasks. One of the things I did actually during my break earlier today was meditate. So that's another one of my goals for this year is at least 5 minutes of meditation every day. But what I've actually been trending towards is around like 10 to 12 minutes every single day. I've been experimenting with meditation now for probably a year and a half, maybe even 2 years, but I never actually, I'd say, committed to it for like a consistent basis every single day for like a year straight. So that's sort of one of my goals for this year is to really build the consistency of the habit, because I think that's obviously where the greatest benefits come. When I find the best time for that is usually during my break at school, where all of my other friends have classes. I don't really have much going on, so I just sit down here at a bench, meditate for 10 minutes. It's usually really nice. One of the apps that I actually use for that, it's called Waking Up by Sam Harris. It's a very, very good app. I tried it out and they have a wonderful program. They even have, if you can't afford the subscription, they have ways where you can get it for free. So it's a great app, and I've been doing that every single day. So right now I'm doing the daily meditation course. It's like the first 30 days basically for beginners. And then aside from that, I had one more class, had some lunch, and now I was actually just wrapping up some other things. So we have a guest speaker coming tomorrow. So I was just emailing him, making sure to confirm that he can actually come. And he got back to me within like 2 minutes, so over email. So yeah, we're gonna have a guest speaker for that tomorrow, which I'm pretty excited about. That's for our school club where we invite, entrepreneurs and guest speakers, and he has a very, very interesting story. So I'll definitely be sure to share more about that in the video tomorrow. Alrighty guys, so it's now around 4:41 p.m. I'm in the car about to head home. And I did want to share, I think I talked about it a little bit this morning, but I do have a pretty interesting event that I'm gonna be going to tonight. It starts around 6 p.m. and I end up finding out about it, surprisingly enough, through ChatGPT. Over the past few months, I've been, trying to learn a little bit more about investing and sort of that whole sort of space. And one of, a very, very famous investor, specifically within, the private equity side of investing, is a man named David Rubenstein. He founded the Carlyle Group, one of the largest private equity firms in the entire world. And I ended up, just doing some random research through ChatGPT, and I ended up finding out that he's going to be speaking in my town tonight. So I ended up, emailing the people there. It's mainly for adults, but I emailed them and I said, hey, would I be able to attend? I'm a student in the area, and I ended up being able to attend. Definitely looking forward to this, and I think it'll be super interesting to hear more about his journey, what he's done throughout his life, his lessons that he's learned, and more importantly, there should be some, other pretty interesting individuals from my town that should be attending there. So it should be cool to, just meet some people, learn more about his story, and sort of, enjoy the evening. One thing I also want to add that I guess one thing that I've been learning and using ChatGPT for a lot is I think aside from it just answering your questions and being able to do deep research, I think something that's really valuable about, ChatGPT and these new chatbots is the ability to have extremely, extremely targeted search that was a lot harder to do before with Google. For example, me finding out about this event, I don't think I would have been able to do through Google, because it's on a very niche, small, random page within my community for this small, financial forum that probably doesn't get a lot of views, but somehow through ChatGPT I was able to find it. So that's something I recommend you guys to maybe try out and experiment with a little bit more, is trying to use these chatbots like ChatGPT or Claude as search tools instead of Google, to find really interesting information that you wouldn't be able to find otherwise. Because it's helped me in many, many cases in the past, and this is one case where it's actually worked out pretty well. So I'll go home, have a quick little meal, get dressed up, and I'll probably try and film a little bit about the event, how it looks over there,
and I'll definitely be sure to update you guys afterwards on how it goes, what I've learned. But yeah, it should be interesting, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. Alrighty guys, so I wrapped at the event. It is now almost around 9 p.m. So I was there for roughly almost 3 hours. Wow, definitely went by fast. Wanted to take some time to reflect on it. But overall, I mean, it was an incredible event, amazing thing to be exposed to. I mean, this was right by my house, one of the greatest investors of our time coming to speak. So it was great to come hear about what he spoke about, even though, quite a bit of it wasn't necessarily about just the economy or things like that, but it's sort of a panel discussion. So they're discussing, various things. Part of the discussion, I'd say, was focused a lot on the economy. So, they were asking him a lot about, I guess, the current Fed chair, thoughts on that, thoughts on the current state of the economy. One thing that I thought was really interesting was, I guess, the population risk within the United States, and how obviously, that could be a challenge when it comes to the GDP growth over the next 20 to 30 years, how the population's almost declining. How I think he was saying how the average woman before I think it was like 2.2 children. Now it's around 1.6. So, as you're skewing more towards that one, obviously when it comes to reproduction, it's when you have 2 kids, and for those 2 kids, you have 2. So obviously there's a multiplying effect that comes with that. So it's definitely a risk for the United States, but also China has that risk as well. I think he talked about various other really interesting things. One thing that I thought was really fascinating, his way of speaking, his way of presenting himself, his way of captivating the audience was really interesting. And when he was they asked, what advice he'd have for young people, young professionals who don't really know what to do with their life and are sort of looking to, find success, build a life of, fulfillment and success. And one of the things that he said was, reading and writing as much as you can. I found that really interesting because he was definitely a very engaging speaker, a very well-spoken man, a very well-educated man. And yeah, I mean, that's definitely probably one of the things I'll take away is that, especially now with AI, when you can have AI write all your emails, not to say obviously use AI to, get information. I mean, I found out about this event literally through ChatGPT. But I think the key is keeping the critical thought, the reading skills, the comprehension, the communication skills, the writing abilities, all of that. I think that's extremely important. So that was one of the takeaways he had. And then he talked about, some various other things. He's a very passionate person about United States history and politics. Before he actually started private equity, he worked, under the president within Washington, D.C. So he talked a lot about, our country's 250th anniversary within the United States of America is this year in 2026. So he talked a lot about, United States history and sort of honoring the fact that, it's really fascinating how 250 years ago, the Declaration of Independence was signed to provide the people of the United States of America freedom from oppression from the king, and to give people a life where every man and woman is made equal, where you have a land where you can pursue opportunity and freedom and happiness, and sort of really doing whatever you can to celebrate that. I found that really, meaningful, and I think a lot of Americans should be reminded of that. It's not to say that this country's perfect. I don't think any country is perfect, but I think, appreciating the history and understanding it, and just definitely being appreciative of your circumstances and keeping that spirit up so that this can continue on for the next 250 years, hopefully. And then some other really interesting information they shared, like how he is the largest private holder of the Declaration of Independence. He has the most private copies in the United States, how he purchased the Magna Carta, which is absolutely insane. But, definitely a very humble guy, a very, fascinating guy. So you definitely, enjoyed the talk. And it's also just going to these experiences and seeing it and being part of that. It's a holistic experience. It's not just about hearing him speak. It's about being in the room with those people, dressing up for it. It's more than just coming for the speaker. And then after Mr. Rubenstein gave his talk, there was some time afterwards where I went around and I spoke with some various individuals. Actually, funny enough, I found a fairly young kid. He was around in his 30s, who's in the Bitcoin industry. So basically what he does is he goes around to wealth managers, investment advisors, educates them on Bitcoin, and provides them with custodial software solutions so that they can offer Bitcoin to their clients. And because he was a younger guy, we definitely talked for 20, 30 minutes. We can relate a lot about, why we value Bitcoin, both of us. I personally, think Bitcoin's a great investment. I think it's a great innovation, a great technology. I've made a video about it previously on this channel. So we talked a little bit about it, what our thoughts are over this next year. We both agree that 2026 could potentially be, if we look at the 4-year cycles, 2026 could be not as much of a great year as the past 2-3 years, or 1 to 3 years as have, because obviously that's been the upward cycle after the halving. But also a lot of people think that could not be the case when it comes with institutional investors this time, BlackRock, things like that. It's hard to tell. But anyways, we talked a little bit about Bitcoin, and then I went around and talked with some older professionals, people who had really interesting careers, such as, simply acting as the connectors or the middlemen between, asset allocators such as pension funds or endowments, and simply connecting that capital to private equity funds. So let's say I'm an endowment, I want to invest $50 million, and I have a private equity fund, and I'm raising money to buy, a group of private companies. And essentially all this guy does is he gets capital from those funds, allocates them to these private equity companies, you take a commission. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into that. I'm sure it's a very trust-based industry, but, again, a completely different model that I never even knew existed before then. People often think of traditional sales jobs like car salesmen or real estate salesmen, but I also think, there's a lot of opportunities, amazing niches that you just have to be exposed to. So I found that really interesting, learning that that's even a possible model, Anyways, it's around 9 p.m. So my plan for the rest of the evening tonight is probably just going to be heading home, going to shower, prepare some final materials for tomorrow. Probably I have some homework that I got to do for school. So yeah, that's the game plan. I'm going to head home, and I'll probably make another video doing an update on whatever happens tomorrow. We have a guest speaker at school tomorrow, so that should be great. I'm definitely going to document how that goes. Alrighty guys, so it's currently the next day, January 14th. I'm currently at school. It's around 1:30 p.m. So yeah, quick little update on the day today. Not really much went on, just had a few classes at school. I have one left for the rest of the day today. And then aside from that today, we have our guest speaker after school for our club. So pretty excited about that. We have a very interesting local entrepreneur and parent at the school who's gonna be coming to speak with us. So I'm very excited to host him, hear more about his story. I think that'll be very, very insightful. One thing I actually did before school this morning was I printed out sort of every time we have a guest speaker come, I like to sort of give an introduction before they start speaking. And oftentimes what I've done in the past is I've just read off of it. But this morning what I did before school is I actually, I went into the room where we're going to be giving the speech, and I sort of, I visualized the room full of people, and I try to memorize, what I was going to say and, really try and present it well. And I think, I'm definitely, I think that's a great practice because oftentimes, first of all, the best outcomes don't come from magic or, some supernatural capabilities. Oftentimes it's just through practice and repetition. And I think, a lot of great advice I hear oftentimes on podcasts or from other successful individuals is, don't underestimate the power of preparation and just, doing as much research as you can, whether it's for a job interview or for an interview or for today, our guest speaker. I did a lot of research. Or even, just taking the time, 10, 20, 30 minutes to recite what you're going to say, really visualize, the room filled with people, how you're going to present it, and just doing whatever you can to really prepare the best you can, deliver the best you can, put your best foot forward. That's sort of it. Just had some classes, knocked out most of my schoolwork at school, won't have too much homework. So when I get home, I can work on, whatever's on the plan for today. That's aside from schoolwork, but that's sort of the game plan. So it should be from around 3:30 to 4:30, maybe even 5 p.m. I've got one more class left, got the guest speaker, and then I'll update you guys after that. I was filming earlier in the driveway when I got home around 5 p.m., but I got interrupted, so just going to film this now. So anyways, ended up finishing my last classes, and then we had our guest speaker event after school, and overall, in hindsight, the speaker event went well, lots of great lessons learned. We had a great discussion, had a really, really interesting story. Our speaker, he, was an immigrant to the United States, came from the former Soviet Union, grew up with pretty much nothing, but ended up building a massive business in the senior care industry, and he ended up exiting that business. Now, he wouldn't tell us how much he exited that business for, but I'd assume high 8 figures, maybe even 9 figures, which is, extremely, extremely impressive, especially considering his age. When that happened, he was around 38 years old, so fairly young. Super ambitious, but also a super nice, down-to-earth, ground-level guy. And I think that's one of the lessons that he shared, and I kind of agree with it. It's like when you see these people in person and you see what they've achieved, you realize that at the end of the day, these people aren't any different than you. Oftentimes they're not geniuses, they're not reinventing the wheel. They're just applying what works, sticking to it, staying persistent, and ultimately in the end it works out. So, we had a wonderful discussion. And I'm really, glad it worked out. Now, unfortunately, out of all of our speaker events, this is our 6th one. This was the lowest turnout, and it was a little, disappointing. I was actually a little worried when I was going to greet him, because I was hoping to have at least 20 to 30 people come, and we only had around 8 people come. So it was quite a disappointment, I have to be completely honest. I tried my best. I emailed as many people as I could. I put flyers all around school. I sent text messages to people I knew, and unfortunately either people weren't interested, had some sort of sporting event, had some sort of trip, just didn't want to come, who knows. But anyways, so I went out and greeted the guy. I was a little worried that, hey, sorry, we don't have that many people. I'm sorry if this may be a waste of your time. But ultimately, he was super patient with us. Regardless of the fact that there was a low number of people, it was still a really engaging group. We definitely took away a lot from it, and I'm extremely grateful that he took the time to speak with us. So then afterwards, I ended up going home, went on a run, just because I didn't really have time to go to the gym today after school. So just want to get some exercise in. Had some dinner. Now I'm at Walgreens. I just had to pick something up. Yeah, for the rest of the evening, probably just going to go home. One thing I do like to do after we have a guest speaker is write a handwritten sort of just thank you note, thanking our speakers for taking the time to speak with us. So that's something that I'll do when I get home, just write a thank you note to them, probably ship it out in the mail tomorrow. So anyways, yeah, that was the day today, and I will see you guys tomorrow. It is Saturday, January 17th. It's around 4:35 p.m. I just wrapped up a roughly 1 hour workout at the YMCA. Did some shoulders and arms, and then ended up on the treadmill. So pretty good. Really end up filming much since I believe Wednesday. So it's been quite a while. Yesterday after school, I spent some time with a friend. We were experimenting with some AI tools for probably 2 or 3 hours, just sort of seeing what it can do. I mean, I have to say it's extremely impressive. Afterwards went for some dinner, and then we had a nice conversation for probably an hour or two, just talking about various things and ideas and perspectives and whatever. But yeah, so one thing I wanted to share, and I think I was hoping to share it a little bit earlier, I didn't really get to it, is I guess, I was talking a little bit about earlier, I'm not sure exactly how I laid it out in this video, but I was talking earlier about how, this year, I have a few goals. One of them is to post one video every single week. So yeah, today's Saturday. Can probably wrap up the last clip today, upload it for Sunday tomorrow. So that's one of my goals. Another goal for this year that I have is to meditate every single day. It's definitely, I can say just in 15 days, because I started like 2 or 3 days after January 1st. What I can say about my progress with meditation now is that I definitely see the effects while I'm meditating, and maybe 10 or 15 minutes afterwards. But then probably after that, I get back into the flow of life and thought. And I don't want to phrase that in a bad way. Not that, thought or anything like that is bad, but just a cycle where I'm lacking the awareness that you're trying to gain through meditation. It's hard to explain if you've never experienced it. But obviously, it's progress. I'm only 15 days in. I'm very curious to see, by day 45 or 60 or 90 where I'll be. But I definitely see a lot of the benefits, and I enjoy it. It brings me peace and clarity. Speaking of peace and clarity, one thing, as I was talking about, didn't really film much Thursday and Friday, is those are two of my goals for this year. And my one more goal I have for this year is to sort of spend time really focusing on some sort of business and learning some sort of skill and mastering it and learning it. And I've had some trouble sort of thinking about what exactly that might be. I feel like there's a lot of options. I have a lot of ideas, as I've shared in some previous videos. And, I think I've come across what that's going to be. And I think one of a good realization is, at the end of the day, if you put pressure on yourself to think that whatever you're going to do, now 90 days, like 120 days, 180 days, 360 days from now, it's okay to think that, you might just do that for that time period. And then afterwards you'll figure it out from there. One thing that sometimes I struggle with, and I'm going to try and work on, is thinking too far ahead into the future. And as much as that can be good at times, if you do it a little too much, which sometimes I've done too much, is it can take you out of the present, out of what you're doing now, and you're thinking about things that are just totally, completely out of your control, and you don't even know what's going to happen. It's almost like climbing a flight of stairs. If you're on the first level and you're thinking about what you're going to encounter on the 30th one before you even see what's on the 30th floor, you could probably trip before you even make it to the second floor because you're so focused on what's going to be. So I think just taking it one day at a time, one step at a time is important. And it's something that I'm working on. But I'm just going to be transparent. Yeah, it's something sometimes I struggle with, is thinking too far into the future and about too many crazy ideas instead of just locking it into the present and just growing day by day. Anyways, so I was thinking about a few ideas, and obviously, as I've had a big passion for business. I've documented a few on this channel: the phone flipping, the mango business, and I want to spend the next few months sort of learning something and really locking in a craft. And when I was thinking about a few options, I realized that probably a pretty good path that I think I would enjoy is something within the digital marketing space. Now, the reason I think that's a good idea is because first, a lot of digital marketing services, pretty low overhead costs. A lot of it's just skill and time based. Another reason is, it's just great skills that you, in any sort of business of that sense, it's great skills that you could apply to any business in the future, whether that's, simply the marketing, whether it's outreaching to clients through like a cold email or something like that, that's a great skill. Whether it's, making content about your service, that's a great skill. Whether it's sales, selling a client, service delivery. Later, if you have more customers, outsourcing it to other talent, just learning those things. And I feel like it's a great sort of just stepping stone where you can just learn some skills, have some fun, make some extra cash on the side. And then from there, again, see whatever happens or takes you from wherever that takes you. But I also think at the end of the day, marketing is sort of the core of everything. Now, obviously you could put it into all sorts of different buckets, but like a lot of reasons why a certain, someone might have a great idea, but if no one sees it, no one believes in it, it's not really going to go anywhere. Where you could have a mediocre idea, but if you have killer marketing, like you'll probably do pretty well. So when I think about, business, no matter what the business is, I think marketing is really a core facet of that. I was sort of thinking about a few different ideas, and one thing I've enjoyed doing over the past few days is just looking at certain ad creatives and wondering like, hey, like why does this get my attention? Why does this go viral? And as I've gone more into that, like I've found it like it kind of excites me, like learning about that, because a lot of it has to do with psychology. I took a psychology class in high school and I loved it. It says a lot about the way humans think, just human attention, and how that works, how it's directed. I was talking with my friend yesterday. There's this one funny ad that I see, and it's completely AI generated, but it got my attention so well because it's this guy on the stage, and he's saying like, he just like screams. He's like, Florida's the worst state to live in, and then it shows like a crowd of people. And all the people in the crowd are like gazing at him. And then eventually he goes into like, it's really, that's just the hook. And then afterwards he goes in talking about, car insurance. And the whole point of that is to get someone to click on a link to sign up for car insurance through this website. But I found it really interesting because like really analyzing it deeply, like why that hook did well, why that got my attention so well. Even the visuals, right? Like having having a video of people in the crowd gazing at the speaker, I feel like adds it where when you're at your computer looking at the screen, you're like, oh, I feel like I'm with that crowd watching that speaker. So it kind of makes you even more intrigued because you're like, if all these people are interested in what he's saying, then I should be interested. So sort of just those psychological elements to marketing and advertising is intriguing. I was sort of, brainstorming a few different ideas. Initially, one thing I was thinking about was doing, some sort of full service, marketing stack where you'd pick some sort of industry or niche. And, this isn't anything revolutionary. A lot of people do this, where you pick some sort of niche that, needs to acquire customers, and you outreach to them. You say, hey, I can help you get customers. And what I'll do for you is I'll run the campaigns, I'll build the landing pages, I'll build the automations for emails and booking flows, and I'll build ad creatives, the copy, all of it. Although I think that's a great path, and I might, switch to something like that maybe in the next few months. I think it could be a little bit more, not to say it's not possible. I mean, it's both paths I think are great. And again, it goes back to this saying of I think just picking something, sticking with it. Sometimes I almost think of it like a missile, right? Like if you're shooting a missile and it has all these different sensors, if you're just going to stand still and be thinking about what's the best path, the missile's not going to know because there's no sensor feedback. Sometimes you just have to launch the missile, try something. And then as the missile's moving forward, it's going to get a sensor. Oh, I'm a little too far left. Okay, I'm going to adjust right. So sometimes you just got started and try something. And again, sometimes, as humans, we're better at giving advice than taking it. So, when I say that, it's easier said than done. It's something I'm going to be honest, I struggle with sometimes, picking with something, sticking to it, and moving forward instead of just, standing still and thinking about what's the best option, because at the end of the day, you're never going to pick the best option. So I was originally thinking about doing something like that. And then I realized, as I was experimenting with my friend yesterday with these different AI tools, and I've been seeing a lot of these ads recently where they're AI generated ad creatives. And it's super interesting because I would think like, hey, these are pretty kind of scammy and no one would really want to buy a product or click on an ad with an AI actor. And as I've sort of dove deep into it, I think, it might be the contrary, because I've seen a lot of these AI ads get my attention. Not that I've bought a product, but I've also never bought a product directly off of an advertisement in my life. But I know people do. I mean, direct response marketing is a huge industry. I was sort of experimenting with these tools, and I think what I'm going to focus on over the next few months is sort of learning how to make these AI ad creatives and offering it as a service to existing advertisers or existing marketing services, where like, hey, where they're filming already normal advertisements. And I say, hey, you should try these AI ad creatives. I'll make you an engaging AI video using Google VO3. That's like the best platform right now, and it's pretty stunning. I'll share more about it in the upcoming videos. Through that learning, because at the end of the day, when you look at the marketing, there's a bunch, like as I was saying, there's a bunch of aspects. The copy, the landing page, the email flows, the video sales letter, this is for direct response. You have the actual ad creative, and I think when you really think about like the core of it all, a lot of it's the ad creative itself, and simply making it engaging so that someone clicks and watches past the first 5 seconds, and then most of the time after that you have them. So I think just through focusing on that one aspect of building a great ad creative and also using AI would be a great opportunity to learn a lot about marketing, making engaging things. I think I'd enjoy it a lot. And I also think, listen, it might not work out. I think it's part of it, we'll see, but I think it's good to just test and see. And if I were to develop it for existing advertisers, it'd be a great way to work alongside them and say like, hey, when they run it, I get their data and I can talk to them about their advertising data, and I can learn off of their ad spend. So I'm not spending money to run the ads. I simply make it for someone who runs ads, and then I can get feedback from them because they're spending the money to run it. So yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna focus my time on, learning more about that. I think what I'm gonna do over the next week is build a few sample videos that are pretty good, and then probably start reaching out to people and saying, hey, would you like to have a service that makes a custom advertisement for you or something like that. So yeah, I was experimenting with it a little bit today, and it's pretty neat. I do have to say it's pretty neat. So yeah, I think that's sort of the game plan. Just build some sort of marketing service where I just focus on the ad creative aspect and help agencies or existing advertisers just make a cool ad creative, and then from there roll it into whatever happens after that. So yeah, I just thought I'd share that because I think I've been spending a little bit of time thinking about what would be a good thing to focus on or learn or engage in, and I feel like this is a pretty good opportunity for me to learn a little bit about marketing and learn some skills, make some extra money on the side, hopefully, if it works well. If not, then learn some good lessons. That is the update. It's around 4:50 now. Gonna be heading home, have a little snack, and then I have a family dinner afterwards, and then probably gonna clip up this video, post it up tomorrow, and then in the next video probably share more about how I'm getting started with those AI ads. I'll definitely share some more about that. So yeah, that is that for this week. Nothing too crazy with the filming, but again, I'm not really trying to in the beginning make some crazy videos that are super engaging or do well on the algorithm. Just something where I share my ideas, share my thoughts, and as time goes on, I'll probably enhance it a little bit more, but it's not really a priority of mine right now, just to film what I'm doing. So yeah, that is that, and I'll see you guys in the next video.